Hey everyone, I'm Liz Hunt.
I'm Chelsea Poppens.
Welcome to the Agency Rocket Show, where we talk about the chaos of owning a creative business.
Yeah, in this episode, we're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're kind of just
busting few things.
Myth busting.
Busting myths.
Busting up some people's dreams of calling themselves entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Kind of what defines an entrepreneur and a few other things. We're kind of just riffing on this one. So bear with us.
Riff. Here we go. First things first, Chelsea, my eye has been twitching nonstop for like 4 months now. Do you think I should go to the doctor?
Am I stressing you out?
Well, yes. I noticed today that I have like 4 new gray, actually more white hairs than
I noticed a gray hair too. I'm like, on me.
Oh.
Yeah, I can see it through the screen.
God. Yes. I am almost 40 now.
When your eye twitches and you have eyelash extensions, does it like flap?
No, but I do feel like my twitching is like way more noticeable because it's like, like, I don't know. I feel like you can see it way more. But dude, it's usually like feels like every 5 minutes it's twitching.
I just feel like you need to find some inner peace.
Well, here's the thing. I do have inner peace. It's called Zoloft. And I think it's just that my body is.
What if I prescribed some exercise for you? I'm like, go out and work it. Do a triathlon.
Why would I do that? That sounds terrible.
Both my eyes would twitch.
And actually, my whole body would end up twitching on the ground for hours. Because
rigor mortis.
Yes. Because that sounds like my worst nightmare. Speaking of, you did do a triathlon this weekend.
Try sprint. It's a little generous to say that I did an Olympic triathlon, but
I don't. What? What does that even
they
mean?
do it they cut it out in like pieces. So try sprint is usually like 500-meter swim with like a 12-mile bike ride and then like a 3-mile run. And then they have levels to it as they try to get their race up to like Olympic level. So like this one was like 750 swim, 15.5 meter bike or 15.5 mile bike ride and then 3.1 mile run.
And you did this because you love your boyfriend.
His love language is quality time. And thought it would be a good quality time thing. But
I just want you to know that my love language is also quality time. But I would never, ever do a try whatever you just said for anyone.
Not even if Andrew wanted to do something?
Oh, heck no. Heck no. I would be like, you're on your own. Actually, he has done it before. And he ended the race just like grumpy. And I was like, this is terrible. Why did we do this?
What? You say we.
Yeah. I mean, like, I had to show up and, be all like supportive and stuff. And it was awful.
Why did we do this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why did we have to come down here in the sun and like, watch people? It was so boring too.
That's usually how it is. Ryan did a half marathon and he was just like, don't ever let me do that again.
Yes, I agree. I concur. You should never do that again.
I concur.
Seriously, I have a thing where it's like, I genuinely, I can appreciate it, but like, I genuinely do not understand, like people who run as like a hobby. I really genuinely don't. I hate it so much. It's awful.
Ryan and I were just talking about that. He's like, I've never experienced a runner's high that they speak of.
Yes.
And I was like, me neither. I don't think so. I'm like, I mean, I guess it may be a good meditative practice, but I've never had I'm like, wow, I'm really just like on a high right now while in pain.
Yeah, exactly. I can't meditate when my body is hurting so fully. Is it just like that your body hurts so much that like you go to a whole new plane of existence, Like
mentally you leave your body.
You have like this whole new, I don't know, you go to like a whole new world.
I will say I didn't mind Sunday's tri sprint because when you're biking, you're like, oh, I'm just going to get that next person. You're like, you can get a little competitive about it.
Yeah,
And you're like,
achiever kicks in.
And then you're like, you go by and you're like, good job, big rocks.
Yeah.
Or like on the run, most people pass me. So when I do pass someone, it's much more rewarding.
Yeah, when you pass somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, even though I think it was the dumbest thing ever, good for you for doing it and spending the good old quality time with your boyfriend.
Thank you. It's all about trying things and taking action on things that scare you.
Is it? Okay.
Leading back to entrepreneurship. Taking action on your dreams. And
good little transition right there.
Oh, yeah.
So, we've been running a business, creative business, for a few years now. And I feel like there's a few things we've learned along the way that we thought someone who's thinking about starting a business or has been running their business for a little bit of time could use a little bit of wisdom that we have gleaned over the years of running a small creative agency.
As the creator of DayCloud Studios, what kind of catapulted you into your own direction and starting a business on your own? Because obviously starting a business is a scary thing to do. It's honestly probably easier just to go into a normal corporate job where there's you kind of know what's expected of you and then they're secure financially, but taking a leap on your own is a whole other demon.
For sure. Over the years, it's interesting. My perspective on that risk of running your own company versus being employed by a company has kind of shifted because when you're employed by someone versus working for multiple clients, with multiple clients, you have to get fired by a lot of people before you're out of a job. Whereas if you work for one person by one corporation, you have to get fired once before you're completely out of the job. So, when we talk about risk.
So your main worry was getting fired?
Well, I just mean when it comes to weighing the risk of things, I don't know that entrepreneurship is like that. I do how think risky it is.
From my perspective and then from people that I know that started things off on their own, there is a confidence building and just being able to be I know what I'm doing. And
you mean running a company? Running
a company because I know one of my neighbors, she started her own business and the problem she's having is the confidence in those spaces to be I know what I'm doing. Even if she knows what she's doing, it's more just having the credibility of working with some people and doing those things. So then she's I've done this a million times. And it's a scary space to step into.
Yeah. I mean, anything unknown is scary to the human condition. You're absolutely right. Anyone who hasn't done something, they're always scared of it, right? That's normal human response to anything that they don't know how to do. Okay, so I started DayCloud because I had to, because I needed a job and no one would hire me, and that is it.
Did you get fired?
I sure did. I sure did.
You're really nailing down her trauma behind entrepreneurial.
Yep. Here we go. Just laying it all out here. So, actually, yes, I was an art director for this really cool, hip, up-and-coming design studio. And we are in a relatively small design community and in the space that we operate. And I had just graduated college, and the design studio that I was working for had just brought on some new owners, and it just was not a good fit, And so they fired 2 out of their 3 staff. They fired everybody but the intern, and myself included. And I found myself out of a job 1 month after graduating college. Even though they had just promoted me to art director I don't know, a few months before. So maybe this was my own embarrassment, but it felt like everyone in the design community knew about it, And so I kind of like went underground for a while and started freelancing, and contracting for a couple of big companies. Somehow, by true divine appointments, basically, just like divine intervention, I ended up landing a couple of really large accounts. One of the largest universities here in town, and then the largest local accounting firm here in town. And they were both doing a big rebrand, and they both hired me to roll it all out for them. And so they were both massive jobs, and they hired me within the span of 3 days of each other. And it was just a matter of like right place, right time. I just showed up, did the work, and also just a lot of luck and, like I said, divine intervention. And even while I was doing that stuff, I kept interviewing for jobs because I was like, eventually the work's going to run out, But then it never did, and no one ever hired me. And so I just kept doing freelance. And then after like 5 months, I was like, I had too much work to do on my own. And so I hired my first 2 employees, actually. And then it's just snowballed from there. And here we are 11 years later. And we have a whole team, right? And so, that's how we got started. It was really, honestly, like kind of accidental, just like an accidental business. I made customers, and then I kept trying to get other jobs, kept trying to get other people to hire me, and no one would. And then finally I realized, I think maybe I just am not meant to be an employee, because I'm just like not really, I don't know, cut out to be an employee, I think,
She's trying to say she doesn't want to be told what to do.
Well, that's very true.
She's like, I'm just not meant to be an employee.
I just don't fit well into, I'm just very much a square peg that doesn't ever fit into anyone else's. God, no matter how I try to end this.
Did you say a square peg?
Yeah. No matter how I try to end this. Are you trying to find
a metaphor that fits?
Yes. Okay, here's the thing. I was really about to say I'm just a square peg that doesn't fit into anyone else's round holes, and I just I know. I didn't know where to go from there, because I knew as I was saying it that I shouldn't say it.
She doesn't fit anyone else's cookie cutter. You just make up her own at this point.
Yeah, I just don't fit well in a typical employee role. I just realized, like, I just make my own trails. So play to your strengths, right? So that's what I've done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna create a Liz Hunt book off of random.
God, I know.
You know how good I am at saying those phrases, and
like,
let's hit 2 birds, 1 stone. I always botch that, and all of the other ones.
Let's hit 2 stones with 1 bird.
2 stones, 1 bird. Say it confidently. No one will question it.
Except for Ryan.
Yes, very literal Ryan.
Yes, which is her boyfriend.
Yes. He's a scientist, so he questions literally everything I say.
It's kind of his job. Well, not everything you say, but it's his job to question things.
But, I mean, as far as like entrepreneurship on my end, I think mine always stemmed from like working on a farm. It's always blue collar work. You get paid for doing the hard stuff. And then eventually translating into playing professional basketball or playing collegiate basketball, and then going overseas and constantly being on your own and running your own business essentially as a professional athlete, and handling yourself and what direction you go. And I think after retiring and hanging up the sneakers, you kind of have like that identity crisis of figuring out what you want to do and what you're passionate about outside of a ball. And it's kind of just like a whole experience to be like, I am more than a basketball player, even though that's been kind of the label that I've put on myself for the last 26 years, 27 years, and then having to like completely shift. Like it's like identifying yourself as a daughter, a sister, like someone who's passionate about reading, finding all those other identifications for yourself in order to figure out what you want to do besides play basketball. Like for me, I didn't necessarily want to completely default to coaching because that's what like everyone does as like an athlete.
Right.
They're just like, oh, I'll coach when I'm done.
Yeah.
And so like I didn't go directly back into basketball after retiring. I did train and I did do camps, but like, I did take space to work for an agency in town and figure out what I wanted to do. But it turns out like I was slowly dying inside while working there. And so I went back to like training basketball and I'm doing that stuff until I figured out what I eventually wanted to do. And that I actually enjoyed doing. I had to figure out what kind of filled my cup, and I actually let go of the idea that I was an athlete, because I mean, like once you're done, you're like, yeah, you're done. You don't like, you need to stop living in the past, because otherwise you're going to hold on to that forever and be like, that was my glory days. And to sit there and think about your peak being in the past rather than in the future is kind of an issue that a lot of athletes have once they hang up the sneakers.
That's really interesting. Yeah. You are not a has-been, Chelsea.
I know.
You are not.
I'm a currently being.
You are. Also, it's funny that you're like, I didn't used to be an athlete. And then we literally just had a conversation 5 minutes ago about you running a triathlon. So.
Yeah, but there's a difference between being at the peak of your basketball career and then like being old and busted and hurting every single day, your back hurting, and then just being like, I'm gonna compete in this race and finish. The goal is just to finish. Like at this point, it's not.
I just want to make it across the finish line.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna get first. I'm not gonna get second. I'm gonna finish.
Just want to get there.
Yeah. So like your whole like goal around that stuff. Like still, like I don't think being active or that a little bit competitive, that mentality doesn't really go away, because once you reach the pinnacle of one of your dreams, you realize you're able to reach your dreams in so many other areas of whatever you choose. So you just have to choose. Yeah. And that's the main issue that people have, like, is choosing the next direction and going after it fully. And I mean, entrepreneurship, that can look like so many different things, whether it's like working in different pieces of a business, or it can just be like, I don't know. Even now working for DayCloud and being a partner at DayCloud, I still train kids in basketball. I still like last year I put on some camps still, not this year, but like I still find ways to like make money on the side and through things that I enjoy and things that fill my cup. I think there's a special piece of owning something for yourself and creating something for yourself. I think a lot of people lack the action of doing and going after things. And a lot of people just think and they ideate and they're like, what if I did this? But just jumping into the unknown, or quitting their job to do something that they're passionate about and having the confidence in doing that. That's kind of like a special place. And for not everybody, like you said, some people are meant to do things and some people aren't. So
I do think that kind of brings up like another point, that one of the people that I personally admire, which is Gary Vaynerchuk. One of the things that he says about marketing and entrepreneurship and like all this stuff is that he says that ideas are it's execution that's the game. And I think that that is one of the truest, best pieces of advice I've ever heard for anyone who is thinking about, starting a business, becoming an entrepreneur, anything like that. And it's kind of like what you're saying is like, cool. So you have an idea but it's all about how you execute it. When I'm like giving a talk or something and I bring up this point, one of the examples I like to give is that, like, whenever we think about a screen type of phone, they always think about an iPhone, right? But iPhone wasn't the first company to come to the table with a phone that was like touchscreen. They weren't. It was BlackBerry. And, I think they were the very first ones. I know that iPhone wasn't. And before iPhone, there was BlackBerry. And so like Apple wasn't ever the first ones to come to the table with this touchscreen idea of a mobile phone, right? But what Apple did is they were the ones who, they didn't have the idea, but they executed it so beautifully. They executed it 10 times, 100 times better than BlackBerry ever did. And that's how they owned the market. Because did you ever have a BlackBerry, Chelsea?
Unfortunately, no. I wasn't blessed with that opportunity. I had an LG, one of those keyboard things.
Yes. So the BlackBerry phones were terrible. They were so awful. There was one time, this was a long time ago, but Andrew and I think it was like our anniversary or something. We were in downtown Kansas City and we were trying to get directions to the hotel that we were staying at in downtown Kansas City. And it literally took us 2 hours because it would like not update fast enough. It wouldn't get us directions quick enough. We couldn't get over the 6 lanes of traffic fast enough. And it was just an absolute nightmare. And I'm like,
you should have MapQuested it.
I know.
I know. You should have printed out those papers.
We trusted in these terrible BlackBerries too much, right? And so it was like, the idea was there, but the execution was not. And so like, it's that same idea. Like, you don't have to be the first one to come up with the idea. The idea does not have to be so unique. But what does have to be unique is your execution of it. Like, your execution has to be so much better than everybody else's. And I think that's actually where you win the game when it comes to like entrepreneurship and being better than everybody else. Is like, it's not the idea, it's the execution, like Gary Vee says. And so that's one of the cool things I think about that we've definitely learned, I think, in our creative business, which is like when it comes to obviously doing way better work, like we do our absolute best to have the best branding, the best marketing, the best copywriting, the best websites, like all those things that we do better than everybody else, right? Like, because none of it is like any different. We're not like, we still use the same tools, but we are actively trying to create better execution of that. But then, like, what I really try to focus on is not just stopping there. Like, I actively try to make sure that we are being better at executing customer service and executing on communication and executing on client relationships and executing on even prices, like not just being cheap, but like being valuable to our clients, and just like every aspect of our business is not just a good idea, but executed so perfectly.
I think we do a good job of looking at our processes, identifying any key problems, and then optimizing our processes. Kind of like you said, like the execution piece of it. I mean, it is finding the bottleneck of like those processes and like making sure that like, oh, this is kind of an area that like clients have kind of been complaining about. Like, let's figure out how this doesn't happen in the future, and like having those conversations, because a lot of it comes back to communication and dropping the ball on communicating expectations to the client, expectations to your internal team, and just making sure everybody's on the same page so that like if there is an issue that comes up, you can always reflect back on those facts that were stated at the beginning. You're like, well, we told you at the beginning that like it was going to take this long, or we told you at the beginning that these are estimated timelines, like based on how fast you get feedback back to us, or like things like that. So
making sure that execution is the key to your piece, to your business, and not just about the ideas. So I love it.
In your mind, Liz, what defines an entrepreneur?
I definitely think they are a different breed of people.
I'm going to Google the definition. A person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risks in order to do so. That's what
Okay.
Google came back with.
Okay. So, here's the thing.
Here's what it's not. I already told Liz this. It is not going on Bumble or Tinder and finding someone in their bio saying they're an entrepreneur.
On their profile.
You are not an entrepreneur if you are just unemployed in general. Like it's not a cool thing to say.
I would say, yes, I concur. And I would say even more than that, you are not an entrepreneur until you've actually made a customer. Because, having a business plan does not make you an entrepreneur. Having a name and an LLC does not make you an entrepreneur. Having social media accounts, having like followers and things like that does not make you an entrepreneur. The thing that makes you an entrepreneur is having a customer who has given you money for goods or services that you have provided something in return for. There's been a transaction of something. They have paid you in dollars and you have provided back to them goods or services. You are an entrepreneur if you have made a customer. Otherwise, I would say you are maybe like an idealist. You have a good idea. You have a dream. You have some wishful thinking going on, but not quite an entrepreneur yet. Keep at it. First, you got to make a customer.
I feel like there's levels to it. I'm like, I feel like there's some ego behind saying you're an entrepreneur. Like,
no,
I feel like if you're just selling like knitted sweaters out of the back of your truck, I would not call myself an entrepreneur.
Yes, I absolutely would.
I don't like if it's like occasional, like whoop, it's like off, like. If it was like a hobby, like there would be some ego in me to be like, I'm not going to call myself an entrepreneur until I at least make a certain amount off of this.
No, Chelsea, somebody has given you dollars. Like, and I guess not even dollars.
This is that's like US, saying like on Facebook Marketplace, I've sold stuff. I'm an entrepreneur.
I mean,
I'm a reseller.
Who am I, right? I'm just saying like the drug cartel, they are entrepreneurs. Are they doing it illegally? Yes. But but they are entrepreneurs.
Disclaimer, we do not condone illegal activity at Agency Rocket.
as far as you know. So, like, but like, you know what I'm saying? If you're selling sweaters out of the back of your truck, that's called being an entrepreneur.
Sweaters.
Like kids that have lemonade stands, that is absolutely entrepreneurship.
Yeah, but it's cute at that age. Like, I'm not going to go tell...
It's cute for you, too, Chelsea.
If I go out there and sell lemonade.
This 6'2" ginger girl, like, selling sweaters out of the back of her truck. I think that's cute, too.
Yeah, could you imagine me standing in the corner just being like, help me be an entrepreneur.
Sweaters for sale. Yes, I can.
Yes. I don't make sweaters, by the way. So, just in case anyone was wondering.
Just saying. We're going to start selling them in our store. Just going to say sweaters for sale.
I'm an entrepreneur. That's what it's going to say.
Yeah. So, have to make a customer. Then you can officially be an entrepreneur.
I feel like for a while there, a lot of people were floating that term around way too loosely. That's why I say what I say.
Yeah, pretty loosey-goosey with that. When they were just unemployed. Yeah. My favorite was when it was like on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, and the
title that they say.
Yes. What do they call it?
Entrepreneur.
Yes. And in my head, I was always like, oh, they don't have a job.
He's still living at his parents' house. And he all he does, I bet there was like a lawnmower, and he like just mows the lawn on the weekend. They're like, let's just call him an entrepreneur. We don't want to put that on the TV.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's so good.
All right. Well, no matter the level of entrepreneurship, whether you're in the ideation stage or you're actually like just starting it up, or if you've been doing it for a while, I mean, I think it's great. Not everybody has the motivation to execute. So kudos to anyone who has the balls to get out there and actually go after something, their dreams, the business that they want, or the vajays. The balls are the huge vajays, as Liz would say. The balls to go after what you want and step into the unknown. I think everyone deserves a round of applause for being able to do things that are a little bit risky.
For sure.
So, moral of the story, go after your dreams. Don't call yourself an entrepreneur unless you are. All right.
Cool.
If you like our episode, like, share, follow, comment, send us some feedback. We'd love to answer any questions you might have, or if you have stories of guys who call themselves entrepreneurs, share what their real job was. We would love to bring that up in our next episode.
Wait, yeah. Chelsea, before we sign off, what was your very first job?
I was in high school. I was a veterinary assistant. So I walked the dogs and I picked up their poop. I told you, blue collar, dude. Blue collar.
No, I love it. My first job, I was 12. And I worked on an apple orchard. And they would bring in like the bushels of the apples. And I would have to pick up the bushels of apples and I would dump them on a conveyor belt.
Oh.
And that was my job. I had to make sure that the apples did not get bruised or anything.
Oh, very delicate.
I actually don't remember if I got paid money for it, but I think I did. But what I remember getting paid for it was that we got to bring home like jugs of the frozen apple cider that they made. That
would have been good.
And it was so good. Oh, it was so good. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason my parents let me work there, was so that I would bring home the apple cider.
Free stuff, but not really free. I lied. I remembered my job was actually, my dad would wake us up at 1 a.m. to load hogs. And so we would, on the school night, we would get paid like $45 an hour to load hogs with him and like get a pig zapper. And then you get like a little board to usher the hogs out. So yeah, I mean, we do that till 3 a.m. and then go to work the next day or go to school the next day.
Okay. There are so many things I like, so many questions.
I don't think we have enough time for them.
No, we have time because, first of all, the fact that you call them hogs immediately tells me that, like, just like how farm girl you really, really are. And like that is how much you actually grew up on a farm. It's because you call them hogs and not like pigs.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's so amazing.
Us also, country folks, we're real educated.
Okay. Also, $45 an hour? Like your dad paid you that?
Usually it's only $15 an hour, but since it was at like 1 a.m., I think he was a little generous.
Gee, like was it you and your siblings?
Yeah.
That is insane. That is so much money. I think that's how much
it was only like 3 it was only like 3 hours of work.
That is so much. Also, you had a little shocker?
Yeah, like pig shockers where you try to like usher them down the aisles.
Did you ever do it to like your siblings?
Yes.
Use it on your siblings? You did?
I don't know. I don't know if I did, but I know my brother used it on my sister like before.
Oh my God.
I think we've all been shocked at some point. Just to be like, can I test this out? Yeah. It's just a natural, what is it?
What do you do when you're kids?
Survival of the fittest.
I'll
You gotta
say.
weed out the young. That's why you touched electrical fences and all that stuff.
Oh, I did do that when I was young. That's true.
Yeah.
Got a real bad shock. I do remember that.
All right.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for watching and listening. Hope you learned a little bit or something. Yeah. Mostly that Chelsea calls pigs hogs. That's my favorite part. It's going to be all city
folks listening to this.
Oh, God.
All right. See you next time.
Agency Rocket Show.